Hi guys, it's Michelle Knight from Little Miss Bookkeeping, and today I wanted to run through how to complete your tax file number declaration, or TFN deck. So more often than not, I do see TFN declarations get completed incorrectly, whether they're by people who are starting jobs for the first time or they've been in the workforce for a number of years. I thought it'd be a good idea just to run through the form, make a few little pointers around why it's important to get this right, and hopefully help some people out that aren't quite sure how to complete it correctly and where to find additional information. So if you're interested in learning more, please keep watching. Okay, so I have my lovely little TFN declaration here in front of me. I've just printed it off the website, the ATO website. So we're going to run through this pack and just some really basic what you need to know. So the first question that comes to mind is, when do you complete a TFN deck? So typically when you're starting a new job, your employer will issue you with this form. Alternatively, they might send you the link to the ATO website and you can download this form yourself and complete it yourself that way. Generally, before you start the commencement of your employment, you'll hand that back to your employer or the accounts lady or the bookkeeper so that they can input that information into their payroll system, lodge that information with the ATO, and then withhold the correct amount of tax connected with your wage or salary. So what we're going to do, I've got this form in front of me. We'll quickly run through it, and I wanted to go through the second last page, which is actually the TFN form declaration itself, and yeah, I'll go through maybe some common mistakes that I typically see as an accountant. Right, so your TFN form looks like this. It's about 6 pages long, and the first few pages are just some information about the form and maybe some direction if you need any more information for a specific section of the form. So if I flick through the first few pages, this is what you'll see before getting to the actual TFN form. And then there is also one more additional information behind that one. But I'll just show it. So if you've been in the workforce for a little while, you'll know that this form, you'll be very familiar with this form. If you're a young adult teenager, this might be the first time you're filling this out, but this is the important one-pager that goes back to your employer. So the form is typically, it is in 2 sections. So the first section is going to be the information that you'll complete as the employee, and the second section is for your employer. So you can ignore everything sort of from that section downwards under to be completed by payer. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of this form. And everything on this left-hand side is pretty much your personal details. So if we have a quick read, it'll be asking you to complete your TFN number. I'm not going to go through in this video how to get your TFN number. That's another conversation for another video. But if you're typically you'll already have this. And then it'll ask for your name, your address, if you've had any other names, your email address, and your date of birth. This section is where I see people trip up or not quite understand what some of these questions mean. So let me run through items 7, 8, 9, and 10 in a little bit more detail, just so you understand the question they're asking and the information that you should be, the information you should be providing. On what basis are you paid? So the full-time, part-time, labour hire, casual employment, you might have an employment contract that specifies one of these options. If not, check with your employer the basis that you're hired on. It's important that you get this part right. Item number 8, so it's asking if you're an Australian resident for tax purposes, foreign resident, or working holiday maker. Now, again, it's really important to select the appropriate box. Typically, a lot of people are going to fall into this criteria. You'll know, or you should know, if you're either going to be a foreign resident or a working holiday maker. Again, if you're not sure, check. But I'm sure that you'll probably know which one you'll fall into. 9 and 10. Now these ones are the most common questions that people get confused with. So I'll quickly run through them in a little bit more detail. Do you want to claim the tax-free threshold? So what is the tax-free threshold? Right now, so I'm filming this in February 2021, the tax-free threshold in Australia is $18,200. So essentially, if your taxable income is up to or under that amount, you won't have to pay any tax. And this is, and it's important that we get this part of the form right. So if you have one job and you're only going to be working one job, then you'll be wanting to claim the tax-free threshold. Because what happens is your employer, as part of their pay run, will tax you on the right amount of tax with your wages if you're completing this form correctly. Now, there are instances where people have more than one job, 2 or 3, there might be a few casual, they might be doing a few different jobs. It's going to be up to you to determine which job you want to claim your tax-free threshold on. The problem or the issue that some people get into is they might have a couple jobs and they'll tick yes to multiple employers. So what happens is those employers are not withholding enough tax. Comes to end of financial year, they lodge their tax return and they get a tax bill just because they haven't completed this form correctly. So just be wary. It's important to understand what this means, and it's particularly important if you have more than one job you're working at the same time. I mean, some people say, oh, just don't claim the tax-free threshold at all, because then you'll just get a big tax refund at the end of the year. Well, technically, yes. Well, it really, in theory, yes, that would happen. But, you know, do you want to be having more tax taken out in your net wage each week or each fortnight when you don't need to? So that's what this means. So yeah, just make sure you're ticking the right box, especially if you're working more than one job. Number 10. Okay, so do you have a higher education loan program, vet student loan, financial supplement, student startup loan, or trade support loan debt? Long story short, do you have, you know, a government funded student loan? So for example, when I went to uni, I did HECS, which is now called HELP. So when I started my first job as an accountant, I had my my HECS debt sitting there, and for this I had to complete yes, because what happens is during the year, if you earn enough over the a threshold that's linked to this, you have to start repaying back your HELP/HECS debt through the tax system. The problem is if you don't complete this correctly, don't quite understand what this means, and hit no, your employer is not going to be withholding enough tax during the year to meet your student loan requirement. And what happens, or what I see happen when someone lodges their tax return, they come back with a tax debt because they didn't complete this form correctly, their employer didn't withhold enough tax, and they have to have a bit of tax payable for that financial year. So it's important to understand what this question means. If you want to double check your, HECS/help debts, student vet fees, you should be able to retrieve that data from your MyGov account online. So I still currently have my HECS debt. If I want to see what that balance is currently, I can jump on my MyGov, log in, my HO is linked, and I can see what the current balance is. So this is what item number 10 means. And last but not least, you'll sign the declaration, date it, and hand it back to your employer. So that is pretty much the nuts and bolts of completing your TFN declaration. Again, if you have any questions, do seek the advice of a tax professional. This video is quite broad, and if you have any specific questions, please do seek the right advice. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you did enjoy it, do please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It does help me provide more valuable content to you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.